You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin.
I turned 40 that year, and for once, I decided to do something for myself. After years of putting everyone else first, family, work, friends, always being the one to make things happen, never asking for anything in return, I figured it was time. A birthday party, something big, something memorable. I planned it all solo. The venue, the music, the cake. Even the invitations, down to the font. It wasn't about being extravagant, it was about making it mine. I made sure Adriana got the same fancy invite as everyone else, of course. I had this perfect vision in my head. Jazz band, great food, her in a red dress, everyone laughing, toasting to me. My night. The day came, and I was ready. I showed up early, crisp suit, everything set up. I checked the sound system, tasted the cake, adjusted the lighting. I was damn proud of what I created. But then, the minutes started slipping by. No one showed up. Not family. Not friends. Not even Adriana. I stared at the empty chairs, the untouched plates, the candles flickering weakly on the cake, waiting to be blown out. I paced around the room, checking my phone over and over like somehow it would change the reality. Maybe there'd been a mix-up? Maybe everyone was running late? But no. My inbox was empty. No texts. No calls. Nothing. I felt the weight of it hit, slowly, like a stone sinking in water. It wasn't just the silence, it was the absence. This party I'd worked so hard to create, to feel special for once, was crumbling in front of me. And the worst part? I could feel it in my bones. They didn't care. Not enough to show up. Not even for me. I waited, hoping for a miracle that never came. Then, the bartender offered me a drink. No sympathy, just a quiet, respectful gesture, like I wasn't the joke in the room. I took the drink. I cut a slice of my still standing at 40 cake and ate it slowly, the icing thick and sweet, but it felt like cardboard in my mouth. When the night was over, I paid the bill, tipped the staff like everything was fine, and walked to my car feeling invisible. Alone. In that garage, staring at the cracked concrete wall, it hit me hard. I had no one. Not really. I'd built up this image of what my life was, of the people in it. But it was just a story I told myself. I didn't know the truth. And the truth was, I was more alone than I'd ever thought possible. I sat in that empty room for hours. Every few minutes, I'd check my phone like maybe, just maybe, there'd be a message, something, anything. Sorry, running late, or stuck in traffic, or something. But no, the screen stayed blank. I didn't know if I should stay or go. Part of me figured they'd show up eventually. The other part knew they wouldn't. Still, I waited. The bartender, a young guy who barely seemed old enough to be serving drinks, watched me from the corner of the bar. Finally, he walked over with a polite smile, like he was offering me a drink to say, "Don't give up yet." No pity, just decency. "Want something?" he asked, his voice soft like it was an afterthought. I didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, sure. Whiskey. Neat." He nodded and disappeared for a minute, coming back with the drink, sliding it over. He didn't ask questions, didn't look at me like I was some kind of sad case. He just did his job. For a second, that felt like the kindest thing anyone had done all night. I took a long sip, felt the burn crawl down my throat, the warmth spreading slowly through my chest. It almost made me forget the emptiness for a second. Almost. I stood up after a while, forced myself to slice into my cake. Still standing at 40. I'd written it on the cake myself, thinking it was clever, like I was some kind of survivor. But the words felt hollow now. I sat back down and shoved a forkful of the thick, sugary cake into my mouth. It tasted fine, I guess, but it might as well have been dust for how dry it felt in my mouth. My stomach clenched, but I kept eating. I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't just the loneliness that got to me. I could handle being alone. I had been for a long time. But it was the silence. The complete, suffocating silence. The kind that wraps itself around you until it feels like it's pressing in on your chest. There was no music, no laughter, no clinking of glasses. No one was fighting to be heard over anyone else. It was just quiet. I sat there, shoveling cake into my mouth, not tasting it, and every now and then, I'd glance up at the door, like maybe someone would walk in. Maybe now. But no one did. The staff cleaned around me like it was a normal night. Like I wasn't sitting there by myself, pretending everything was fine. They moved through the motions, and I just watched, stuck in a loop of trying to make sense of it all. The entire night had become this cruel joke, and I was the punchline. Eventually, I finished the slice of cake. Didn't even want the second piece. I paid the bill, tipped generously, because I didn't want them to think it was their fault. They didn't need to see what had happened here tonight. Thanks, I said, my voice flat. They smiled, nodded, and handed me my receipt. I didn't even look at it. I walked out of the venue, stepped into the cool night air, and headed to my car. The city felt louder somehow, even though it was late. Cars zoomed by. People laughed in the distance. The world was moving on, and here I was, in my perfectly tailored suit, walking out of a party that never happened. When I hit the parking garage, I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe a moment of clarity. Maybe some kind of revelation that would make sense of the night. But all I found was the cold concrete wall, just like the one in my living room. I parked, sat there for a second, staring at the empty space in front of me. I didn't even feel angry. I felt nothing. Just this deep, empty ache that spread across my chest. I looked at the wall in front of me. It wasn't just the absence of people. It was the realization that I had been lying to myself for years, telling myself I was part of something bigger, telling myself that the people around me actually cared. But now I knew. I wasn't just alone. I was invisible. I had been for a long time. And the worst part? I didn't even know how to fix it. A week later, I sat in a budget meeting at work, trying to focus on the numbers in front of me, but my mind kept slipping. It wasn't the spreadsheets or the reports that had my attention. It was the damn text from Adriana. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was from her. I opened the message, and there it was. A bill for $1,800 for her dad's upcoming 65th birthday party. No, hey, hope you're doing okay. No apology for the mess of my birthday that had barely made it past the planning stage. No mention of the fact that the people who were supposed to show up for me had, instead, forgotten I existed. Nothing. Just the bill. I stared at it for a second, my thumb hovering over the screen, feeling my blood start to boil, but I stayed still. I knew if I reacted right away, I'd make a mistake. But it didn't matter how much I breathed, it wasn't helping. The family group chat popped up next, and I saw the flurry of paid and can't wait replies from Adriana's relatives. They were all excited about this big bash, and every notification was like a punch to the gut. I didn't need to think about it anymore. I didn't want to waste one more second of my life on this crap. So I opened Venmo, sent her exactly $1 with a message that read, "Congrats." I hit send, then sat back, numb. And that's when it hit me. I was done. I couldn't keep pretending I was some kind of safety net for these people, always bailing them out, always the one to foot the bill for their emergencies, their hobbies, their stupid family traditions. I couldn't do it anymore. I pulled out my phone again, this time going straight to the bank app. I removed Adriana from all my credit cards, froze our joint account access, and changed the passwords to every shared account we had. I didn't care anymore. There was nothing left to hold on to. I stared at the phone for a second, then made a decision. I booked a hotel. I didn't know where, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. After that, I walked out of the meeting, ignoring my boss's confused look as I grabbed my things. The workday didn't matter. Adriana's family didn't matter. Hell, even my job didn't matter. When I got home, I grabbed my suitcase, packed only the essentials, clothes, a toothbrush, my laptop, and walked out. I didn't say a word. No explanation, no fight. I didn't need to justify this to anyone. I dropped my key in the dish on the counter, the one where we always put them, and left. I didn't look back. The hotel was quiet. Simple. No fancy amenities, no obligations. It wasn't luxury. It was just a room, a bed, and a TV that I barely turned on. For 2 days, I lived like a normal person, the kind of normal I'd forgotten existed. I woke up when I wanted, ate when I was hungry, and worked in the silence. No buzzing phones. No family group chats. No fake smiles. Just me and my own thoughts, trying to keep my head from spinning too fast. It felt like a detox. Maybe the first real one I'd ever had. I wasn't surrounded by noise, guilt, or expectations. It was just peace. But of course, peace couldn't last forever. On the third morning, I was sitting at my desk at the office when I heard someone approaching. I looked up to find 2 uniformed cops standing in front of me, looking dead serious. "Are you Michael Adams?" one of them asked. I nodded, already feeling a cold knot form in my stomach. "We need to talk to you," the second officer said. "Your wife has reported you missing." I stared at them for a second, trying to make sense of what was happening. Missing? What the hell was she talking about? I'm not missing, I said, the words coming out flat, like I was explaining something obvious. I'm just taking some time off. The first cop raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. She's worried. We've had a few calls. I'm fine, I said, sitting back in my chair. Just done. Done with the game, you know? I needed space. I'm not a hostage. The officers exchanged a look, but neither of them spoke. There was an uncomfortable pause before the second one finally said, "We're just doing our job, but you should reach out to her. She's very upset." I felt something cold spread in my chest at that. Upset? Yeah, I'm sure she is, I muttered, more to myself than them. One of the officers pulled out a piece of paper, sliding it toward me. "We're giving you a warning. Call her, or this could escalate." I looked at the paper, but I didn't take it. I just stared at it. Escalate. I wasn't expecting that word to hit me like it did. But it did. Right in the gut. Escalate. I repeated, tasting the word. Like it was the punchline of a joke I hadn't been told. The cop stood there for another second, but I didn't say anything else. They must have sensed I wasn't going to make it easy for them, so they left without another word, the heavy door clicking shut behind them. I sat there in my office, trying to let it sink in. Escalate. It wasn't just about Adriana anymore. It was about what I had started, what I had chosen. And even though the silence had felt so good, the reality was setting in. This wasn't going to be quiet much longer. That night, when Adriana was out with her sister, I went straight to the drawer where I kept all the financial records. I didn't even hesitate. I pulled everything out: bank statements, credit card bills, receipts. I spread them all out on the kitchen table like I was preparing for a war, and maybe, in some way, I was. I started with the transfers. It was easy to spot the patterns, transfer after transfer, always in the same amounts, always when I'd gotten a raise or a bonus. Emergency was the label. Always emergency. Her dad's emergency roof, which turned out to be a remodel of his entire house. Her brother's failed crypto thing, that, months later, still didn't show any signs of turning a profit. Her sister's boutique disaster, which she'd called a small setback, but still needed help with the inventory that had gone unsold for months. There were therapy bills, dentist work, a luxury purse for Adriana's mom. They weren't even pretending anymore. They had this thing figured out. I was the guy who made it all happen. The guy who'd open his wallet, no questions asked. But now I saw it clearly. For the first time, I saw the game they'd been playing. I wasn't part of the family. I wasn't even really a husband. I was just the money guy. That's it. I sat there for a long time, the numbers blurring in front of me. I was tired. I hadn't expected this, to feel like this. But what hurt more than the amount of money I'd lost was how much of me had disappeared into these records, into these excuses. I grabbed a pen, flipped over the back of one of the credit card statements, and wrote something on the page. "I will not fund disrespect." I underlined it 3 times, like that would somehow make it real. Because it was. I knew it was. I wasn't going to be the bank anymore. I wasn't going to keep paying for their mistakes, their excuses, their never-ending demands. Not anymore. The weight of it settled in, heavy and cold. The truth had been sitting right in front of me for years, but I had never wanted to see it. I had made excuses for them, told myself that I was doing the right thing by supporting my wife, by helping her family. But this wasn't support. This was something else entirely. It was manipulation, and I'd let it happen. I didn't know what was next, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to fund any more of it. Not with my money, and not with my life. The next morning, I woke up with one thing on my mind: war. Not the kind you read about in history books. The kind that happens in real life, where everything you thought was solid starts to crumble, and you're left with nothing but the tools to fix it. I started with the bank. I called them first thing, didn't waste a second. Cut off Adriana's access to every account we shared. I set up 2-factor authentication on everything, because if she wasn't going to respect boundaries, then she sure as hell wasn't going to get into my money. I froze the shared funds, locked up every last dollar. Next, I dialed the mortgage company. I told them flat out, no changes, no loans, no equity changes, not without my express permission. I wasn't giving anyone access to that house, not after everything that had gone down. I felt a strange sense of calm as I moved through each call. Like every action was a tiny victory, pushing me closer to something I couldn't explain, but I knew I needed it. I didn't even second-guess myself. I called my accountant after that, went straight to the point. Flag my accounts for fraud, I said. Identity theft. Financial abuse. I don't think he was used to that kind of language. But he didn't argue. He took notes, and I hung up. And then, I called Priya. She was sharp, professional, and calm, exactly what I needed. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I didn't make excuses. I told her the truth. I need an audit, I said. A full one. Every cent spent on her family for the last 5 years. I don't care how long it takes. Got it, she said. And just like that, it was done. I could feel the shift inside me, like I was shedding all the crap that had been weighing me down for years. I wasn't just playing defense anymore. I was controlling this. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I wasn't trying to fix things, make things better, or make people like me. I was doing something. Taking charge. I felt a little bit lighter, even though I knew things were about to get ugly. The day passed in a blur of calls and confirmations. Every task I crossed off felt like a small but decisive step forward. By the time I ended the day, I had everything locked down. The accounts, the house, the lawyer, the audit. I wasn't waiting for anyone's permission anymore. It was a feeling I hadn't had in a long time. Control. And damn, it felt good. I didn't expect them to show up at my office. But then again, I probably should have. Adriana wasn't one to sit quietly when things didn't go her way. It was just afternoon when I saw them in the lobby. Adriana, her mom, and her sister. They were loud, all of them talking at once, trying to get past the receptionist. The tension in the air hit me before I even heard their voices. The whole office could feel it. I walked toward them, and Adriana's eyes locked onto mine immediately. There was that look, the one I'd seen 100 times before. Shock, anger, confusion. But more than anything, I could see the fear in her eyes. She knew I was serious this time. "Why the hell did you freeze the cards?" she demanded, voice sharp and desperate. Her mom and sister stood beside her, both of them staring at me like I was some kind of enemy. They didn't even try to hide the contempt. "Why are you trying to destroy the family?" her mom added, folding her arms across her chest like she was ready for a fight. I kept my voice calm, not giving them the satisfaction of seeing me rattled. I was done with all of it. "You're welcome to email my lawyer," I said, flat, like I was giving them the most basic instruction. Priya had everything under control. I didn't need to argue. Adriana's face twisted in frustration. "You think you can just cut us all off? You think you can treat me like this and not face consequences?" My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done with the games. Done with the manipulation. Done with the lies. Her mom stepped forward, voice getting louder. "You don't understand. We're family. You don't just walk away from us." I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the stillness that was growing inside of me. No more drama. No more trying to fix things that weren't broken. "I understand perfectly," I said, each word coming out slow and deliberate. "But the problem is, nothing's ever about me. Not once." Adriana's face turned red, her eyes flashing with rage. "You'll regret this," she screamed, like it was supposed to mean something to me. For a second, I felt a flicker of something. Maybe sadness, maybe pity, but it didn't last. It wasn't about regret. It wasn't about her or her family. I turned on my heel, not looking back, not giving her another moment of my time. "I'm done," I said over my shoulder. No yelling, just finality. "I'm done being the wallet." And with that, I walked away. The sound of her voice calling after me, desperate, pleading, felt like it belonged to someone else. It wasn't my problem anymore. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I could feel the weight lift as I moved down the hallway. No turning back now. The lobby behind me was filled with noise, but it didn't touch me. I was at peace. It was over. The letter went out the next day. Priya and I had gone through every damn cent, itemizing everything, verifying the transfers, the loans, the emergencies. I couldn't believe the number when I saw it. $86,400. Over 5 years. That's what I'd given to Adriana's family. Money I didn't owe them. Money I never should have given. Priya didn't sugarcoat it. "We're sending a demand letter. 30 days to pay it back, or we go to court." Her voice was steady, like this was just another Tuesday. And for me, it was. I printed the letter, signed it, and sent it off. I didn't care how they'd react. They'd had their chance. Now, they'd see what it was like when the gravy train stopped running. Of course, Adriana called me not long after. I didn't even look at the phone before answering. Where's the money? Her voice was loud, panicked, like the world was falling apart around her. I hit the speaker button, knowing Priya was listening. What do you mean, where's the money? It's gone. You had it, and now it's done. Don't you dare, Adriana hissed. You can't just cut us off like this. You think you're done with us, but you're wrong. You'll regret this. You will regret it. I felt a bitter laugh rise up, but I kept it down. I'm loyal to people who show up, Adriana. You didn't. And that's the end of it. There was silence on the other end. A long one. I could almost hear her trying to figure out what to say, what to do. Then, the words came out, slow, deliberate. You think this is all about money? It's not. You've changed. I leaned back in my chair, trying not to show how tired I was of hearing her talk. No, I didn't change. You did. And now I'm done covering for you. The line went dead quiet. Then, a few seconds later, her voice broke through again. You're nothing without me. Without us. Nothing. You'll regret this. You'll regret all of it. I hung up before she could say anything else. I didn't need to hear her threats. I had nothing left to say to her. But the voicemail that came next was from Gregory. I didn't even want to listen to it, but I had to. Priya was already marking it as evidence when I hit play. Mike, Gregory's voice slurred through the phone. I could hear the alcohol in his tone. You've got some nerve, man. Talking about loyalty? Manhood? Respect? You don't get it, do you? This is family. You're breaking it up over money, and I hope you can live with that. I clenched my jaw, my fist tightening around the phone. He wasn't even sorry. He wasn't ashamed. He was just pissed because the money was gone. I don't care about your respect, Gregory. I muttered under my breath. You don't even know what it means. The voicemail ended, and Priya spoke up. We'll add this to the file. It's evidence of manipulation. They're not used to you standing up for yourself. I didn't care about that. What hit me, though, was how shocked they were. Like they couldn't understand why the money had stopped coming, why the support they'd counted on had suddenly vanished. Like I was supposed to be their endless well. But it wasn't a well. It was a bank account, and that bank had shut down. The gravy train had derailed, and they didn't know what to do. The best part? I didn't care. Not anymore. Gregory's desperation started to show up in odd ways. It started with a text. Mountain cabin listed for sale. Need to sell it quick. We'll give you the proceeds to clear my debt. I stared at the screen for a long time before I deleted the message without responding. Then another one popped up, this time with a photo of his vintage motorcycle. Motorcycles on the market too. It's worth more than the cabin, but I'll take less if it'll help. I shook my head, rubbed my eyes, and forwarded both texts to Priya. Let me know if this is useful. I didn't need his motorcycle or cabin, but the fact that he was scrambling to sell his stuff to pay me back, that was something. Bianca wasn't much better. A few days later, I got another text from her. This one had pictures of racks of clothes and a long-winded message about how she'd been holding on to unsold boutique inventory. I can send you the inventory as payment for what you're owed. I know it's not much, but I'm trying. I didn't respond, just forwarded it to Priya. Her words were a reminder of how deep their sense of entitlement went. It wasn't even about trying to fix things or making a real effort to pay me back. It was just more of the same, an offer of things I didn't need. Then Trevor got drunk and sent me a text. I could tell he was slurring even through the screen. We're family, bro. You gotta get over this. Family's about sticking together. Don't let money tear us apart. I stared at that message for a long time. I thought about responding, but I wasn't interested in more empty words. So I typed, then act like it. I hit send and felt something flicker in my chest. A tiny, bitter satisfaction. But I didn't linger on it. I'd wasted too much of my life on people like them. I needed a way to release the anger, the frustration, the weight of everything. So I went to the gym. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like they were going to give out. And for the first time in ages, I felt like I was doing something that mattered. I wasn't drowning in other people's mistakes anymore. I was in control of this moment. When I came back, my neighbor was waiting for me by the front door with a plate of food in his hands. A casserole, steaming, the smell of garlic and baked cheese filling the air. You look like you could use this, he said, handing it over with a grin. I nodded, tired but grateful. The simplicity of it, just food, no strings attached, was a relief. He stood there for a moment before he added, You know, Mike, good fences keep out hungry goats. I raised an eyebrow, trying to make sense of the odd advice. He shrugged. Means you gotta protect what's yours, or people will take it all. Don't let him, son. I stood there for a moment, thinking it over. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe the timing, but it clicked. He wasn't wrong. That night, Priya emailed me. $19,000 recovered so far. We're moving in the right direction. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the email for a moment before I deleted it. It was starting, the first step, but I knew this was just the beginning. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like I was on the right path. I ran into Gregory at the bowling alley a few days later. He was sitting at the bar, looking tired, smaller than I remembered. He had a drink in front of him, his hands wrapped around the glass like it was the only thing holding him together. He looked up when I walked in, and for a second, neither of us said anything. It was him who broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. I raised an eyebrow, not sure if I'd heard him right. "For what?" I asked, because at that point, I wasn't going to pretend I understood. He shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting away. "For skipping your birthday. I should have been there. Should have made the effort." It wasn't the apology I was hoping for. It wasn't even about the money at this point. But I nodded. "Yeah, you should have." We didn't talk much after that. There was no need. We both knew the score. We bowled one quiet frame. No cheers. No trash talk. Just the soft roll of the ball, the clatter of pins. It felt like closure in a strange way. A quiet acknowledgement that we both knew things had changed. No yelling, no excuses. Just a moment. I didn't forgive him. I don't think I ever will. But I appreciated the gesture. It was as real as he could get. And I respected that. Later that night, I ordered myself a cake. The same bakery, the same kind I had planned for my perfect birthday celebration. This time, though, there was no writing on it, no grand plans. Just a simple, perfectly baked cake. I shut off my phone, turned down the lights, and sat at the kitchen table, eating in peace. The quiet felt different now. It felt like mine. As I finished the last bite, I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote down 3 rules. Simple, but clear. I'm a husband, not a wallet. If love needs an invoice, it's not love. Boundaries stay, even when people get loud. I stared at the paper for a long time, the weight of those words sinking in. Just then, Priya's message popped up. "Last payment short. Proceed?" I typed back without hesitation. Proceed. 40 years old, and finally living for myself.